Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Buffalo Nerd. I think this makes like 15, 16, somewheres in there. So I'm super excited again to get to chat with another new person on the other end of this. Yep, you guys are lucky again. I managed to find another human being that was willing to talk football with me for another day. So it's actually, this is 5/11 we're recording on, right? So you guys will hear this on Friday when we post this out. But this week, it's pretty cool because not only is it a Jacksonville Jaguar fan on the other end, it's also a lady that has played some football herself and is pretty badass. I mean, I didn't play football, so I mean that's pretty badass to me. So I'm joined by Laurie Fitzpatrick this week. So before I get too into telling everything about you, Laurie, why don't you go ahead and kind of take the floor and let everybody know a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so for one, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to kind of talk about a little bit of the Bills and some of the other topics that we have scheduled. Yeah, I used to play women's professional football. I played for the iWFL. I played for the WFA. So they're like the top women's leagues. It's all tackle NFL rules, not college rules, NFL rules. So you can't motion two people at the same time. So little things like that, 2 feet in. Yeah, so I learned a lot about football from playing the game and having to watch film and realizing how crucial film is to the game. I just pretty much fell in love with the sport even more so after I was playing, and I began kind of on Twitter, just like tweeting and breaking down film and everything else. So it's been a fun ride ever since I started playing a couple years ago. So now I'm retired and I'm ready to just talk about the game nonstop. So thank you so much for having me and finding me on Twitter, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you can come on and chat because I think it's cool. Not only it's cool that you played, but right, I enjoy having the female perspective of the game on too, and it's also right now. I mean, I brought you on a lot too because Jacksonville had some pretty big changes just happen here recently, right? That could really change the future of the franchise, which I wanted to get kind of the buzz in the the local community there. But besides that, I mean, you also you write a little bit. You got your own podcast too, right? I mean, you do all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of other things outside of that since you've hung the cleats up a little bit. So it's very cool. I'm thankful for having you on. Your podcast is it's called Ponytails and Pigskins. Is that what it is? Right?
Yeah, Ponytails Talking Pigskins.
Talking Pigskins. That's what it is. Right.
Yeah, but it's only one ponytail, and I mostly have my hair down, so I'm not really living up to the title here. But no, I love the title of my podcast. It's like my favorite thing about it, honestly.
Yeah. How
But yeah,
long
I'm
have you
on.
been doing your podcast?
Well, I started in 2017 just on SoundCloud, and then I kind of moved over to YouTube a couple months ago. So I've been posting like videos of like certain players, like kind of like scouting them, but giving my own opinion. People like to hear my opinion, so I'm just like, hey, might as well just do whatever comes to my mind. So yeah, I did a lot on the Senior Bowl, posted a couple videos, and I'm having trouble posting a video right now, but I'm having a Trevor Lawrence video go up in the next couple hours on my YouTube channel. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff. So you obviously love the game. You're invested in it. I mean, you watch a lot of the game. You played the game. So I'm excited to get your opinion on Jacksonville when we really dive into it, and to hear what you think about the Bills and the AFC in general, really, because I think we saw quite a bit of change this offseason so far and what the AFC can bring. But before we really dive too much into that, we like to bring up, a charity every week here on the Nerd, to highlight and let people know about, that there's other things going on around us that, if you got time, energy, money, any of the above, there's ways to help out, it's just sharing your word and stuff. So this week, Laurie chose curecp.org, which obviously hits pretty close to home for me, obviously, because my crew that I'm running with this year is the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. All right. So they're both CP related. But Laurie, why don't you go ahead and tell me what brought you to Cure CP today?
So my nephew has CP, so it's something that we've been kind of dealing with over the last 4 years, and he's really young, and it's something that I've ever experienced before. So Cure CP is they try to go like the therapeutic route, and they try to see what new methods they can use to kind of just make your daily life a little bit better. So I've been researching a lot of different charities, and that one I feel like resonates with me the most. So that's why I picked Cure PC or CP.
Yeah, I mean, we when we were touching base offline, you had told me that about your nephew. You know, obviously my son Calvin has CP, so I mean he's older, he's 13, compared to your nephew at 4. But it is when you first kind of find out about it and you're getting through it, it's like you want to find places to get information and you want to find places that you can find and research. I mean, especially for like folks like ourselves. I mean, you're into numbers and scouting and looking at the details of things, right? So it's nice to have a place to go and to get knowledge and know that there's people doing research on that kind of stuff. And that's what Cure CP does as well, right? I mean, they're very similar to the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. It's a lot of research, right? It's a lot of trying to figure out what even causes this stuff to take place, and things like that. So
yeah, and
it's
really
cool.
really detecting it earlier and earlier, that's really the main focus for me.
Yeah. When did they diagnose your nephew? How early on?
I would say like probably within the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is good. I mean, Calvin was at like 9 months when they first identified it. So that's really cool, especially for, kids when they can't obviously tell you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're watching a baby move around. Like, is that what they're supposed to be doing? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
a baby, right? So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
what is it? What is it? And then you find out and it's like, oh, okay. It's something completely different. My aunt also had it. She spent most of her life in a wheelchair. So there's different versions of it. There's different magnitudes of it. So it's very cool. I really, obviously I like talking about my charity. So anytime that somebody else's charity aligns with it too, it's very cool. So I've got to see some pictures of your nephew. It's cool, and stuff like that. So we've been able to connect on a different level. So, and obviously, every time we always, all the stuff where you can connect with Cure CP will be in the show notes, all that kind of stuff. If you guys head over there, just check them out, share it out to somebody else. If you can donate, that's awesome too. Right. So very cool. So let's chat a little bit, because there's this thing happened recently where Jacksonville, so they fired Doug Marrone. So let me kind of start there. What was your opinion of Doug Marrone? Because he was with the Bills, right? So I have an opinion of Doug, right? So
I'm sure you do.
What's your opinion of Doug Marrone?
He should have got fired sooner.
Yeah, you think?
Yes, absolutely.
Just purely, do you think he's just that bad of a coach, or would you not put any of it on that the team has just kind of never really been that good? Or are you also putting that kind of on the coach a little bit, that the team's not that good?
Yeah, it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? So he does not add any value to a young team whatsoever. He's kind of very nonchalant, and they say, with Doug, that's not how he is in the locker room. But I don't see a personality changing much from press conferences to the locker room. Like what? They got to lose 10 games in order for you to get hype in front of the press? Like, nah, man, I don't see how he acts much different. And that's not the road to success. So I feel like even, he had to get the free agency and everything was the only thing that got him to 2017. And his players really had to play above and beyond, because I just feel like he didn't put the correct pieces together to make it happen. He just did it. So I just didn't like him as a coach at all.
Yeah. Doug, to me, I thought he was a decent coach for a long while there, and he just kind of fell in the wrong places and things like that. But as far as innovation and things of that nature, yeah, he's not really that great of a coach in that aspect. And
let me say, I want to correct myself, and when I say head coach, because maybe he's a good defensive line coach or offensive coach, or a specialty, but as a head coach, he shouldn't be there in my opinion only.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's even in Buffalo, he was blah with a lot of his stuff. Right. He never really got worked up, down, anything like that. But it's funny because you always hear in the background that people in the football world just think that he's a good football coach, right, and that he was very capable of doing it. But so the times change, he gets moved on, and then you see you're getting to bring in, this kid that's never lost a regular season game, right, in ever, right? So he's coming in, he gets drafted, and then he gets aligned with Urban. So what's your stance on Urban early on?
So far, you just have to have faith. honestly, because he's not someone that ever coached in the NFL. So it's really tough to kind of tell. I mean, even if he did coach in the NFL, people change. So you can't say, oh, you would use the pass against them. But this guy has had nothing but success. So I kind of just have to trust, what he's put together. I'm not really 100% happy with, the holes in the roster still. But I think that coaching sometimes can overcome like lack of depth or just lack of overall skill. When you can put the players in a position to win, they don't have to be the best. You know what I mean? So maybe that's like kind of like the take that I have. Like in terms of the safety position on defense and like interior defensive linemen, and then also like the tight end position. Like the Jags didn't have, I can't say we, but the Jags didn't have a tight end until, this news broke recently. But yeah, I was really hoping that they would pick up a stellar tight end in free agency or at least in the draft. And they didn't really. They picked up a guy from Ohio State, Luke Farrell.
Right. Yeah. That was the thing for me is when you get Lawrence at 1, right? Like there's no reason to move off of that realistically, right? Like it feels a little weird, right? Because Urban could be like, well, Justin Fields is available and I've recruited him and he played for me. And I feel like maybe he's the guy that should be in my system, right? But they're like, we have number 1 pick and this kid's like all world that we're looking at, right? So you're going to get him. And it's like, okay, I'll take the all world QB, right? Sure. But then you go and you get his running back too, which it felt a little weird to me, right? Because I'm with you. Not only is Urban doing his first time in the NFL, now we're going to take Urban with his first time in the NFL, line up Lawrence with his first time in the NFL, and then the back behind him could potentially be the guy that it's his first time in the NFL too. That's a lot of like youth and starting with fresh things. Now I get the kid is phenomenal, right? He's a great player. But I agree with you a little bit. There's a lot of holes that I felt like maybe you should have held off on the running back and just gave Robinson another season to see if it's truly the truth and get somebody a little bit later on to help maybe be the guy. But I mean, it's hard to pass on all world talent and it's hard to pass on putting 2 kids that have been playing football together for 3 years. But where do you stand on that?
I would say it's more the latter of what you just said, like those 2 guys playing together for the last 3 years. It has to be comfortability because in terms of like skill level, I can't say skill level because obviously he's a good running back, like good. That's it, in my opinion. But apparently he didn't get drafted to be the running back. He got drafted to go into the slot, to catch the ball. To do different things on the outside. So that's what I'm hoping he's going to be placed because James Robinson had a stellar year last year. I don't see how, why you would take so much away from him when he still has a lot to go, except for the fact that Trevor can use a guy in the locker room that he's had by his side for the last, 3 years. And that mesh point is really important to get down your rookie year. So when you're handing the ball off, how comfortable are you doing it? Like I remember when I was a running back, the very first handoff, I fumbled. So I never fumbled again after that. And I played 5 years of football. But I had to sit there with the quarterback after our practices and just take handoffs from her nonstop and really getting comfortable with like her height and my height and like just getting that mesh point as one. And then, so that's one thing that they don't have to worry about. So that's great. I just don't like his skill set in general. They didn't really pick up an offensive lineman until like later on in the draft. And then you're going to pick up a running back who isn't really that great at pass protection. When he has to pick up a blitz, he can't really do it. And you see it on film. So like those things just have me worried. Why the heck would you pick ETN? But once again, I'm circling back to my very first comment. It's kind of about trust, with Urban and just trusting what his vision is. and putting him to the outside and kind of like just adjusting just about adjustments. So the first half they use ETN in this way, and then the second half of the game they motion him out and do something completely different, which can throw the defense off. So I'm just like kind of trusting Urban at this point, with the whole ETN pick.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of talk about him, in Buffalo at 30, right? I mean, leading up to the draft, that was kind of the name that was flying around. There's a Buffalo should go after him. Buffalo's going to go after him. They just need a running back. They need a running back, right?
You guys didn't even get
a running back. I didn't really view him as a running back either. I view him as a weapon, right? You put him somewhere on the field and you give him the ball because, in Buffalo especially, he wasn't going to get 15, 20 carries a game, right? He would have got maybe like 5 carries. So you've got to find other ways to utilize a guy that you just picked up at 30. That's pretty high value for a guy that you're not really going to use that much. So I viewed him as a weapon as well. It'll be interesting to see how aggressive they get with him and see what he can do, because I have heard some of the knocks, is like you just mentioned, of pass protection needs some work. He does seem to kind of have a hard time finding the hole interior wise. I've seen a little bit of, but it's exciting. And I would agree with you that I've never seen it work in the NFL, which is why it flags me, right? Saying, that's never worked, right? But we've seen all things in the NFL work and come out of nowhere, right? Like Bill Belichick's 2 tight ends changes everything, or, so bringing in a back. And I love that you brought up all the familiarity stuff, because I'm a big fan of on the offensive line, especially like camaraderie, the continuity. So in you actually being a running back and bringing up the point about heights and doing all that kind of stuff, that is a little reassuring. But I don't like stealing it away from James Robinson, though, after what I saw he did last year. And I feel like he could do it again.
Yeah, and well, the something else that kind of keeps me grounded, I guess you could say, about the whole topic would be the offensive coordinator that they brought in. So Darrell Bevell used to be with the Seattle Seahawks, which is pretty much an exact offense like Jacksonville has. The style of the QB and the types of receivers that they have that can be, that dual threat slasher. Percy Harvin was on there. And then they also picked up the passing game coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer. So that's what they labeled him as. So I think that, their experience in the NFL, like Schottenheimer was with so many teams, and then I think his dad is Marty, or was that his uncle? I'm not sure.
I think it's his dad. Yeah, I think it's his dad.
Yeah, and so like just kind of being in the NFL for that long and being able to kind of like come up with new things that maybe worked back then, or just having that experience, I think maybe they can just do something innovative that we have never seen before, and that's the faith I have.
Well, I mean, and the kid is good, right? I mean, Lawrence is supposed to be really good, so I mean, you're going to have the ability to just give him an option to play the best he can play, right? And that might be enough in some games. We don't know. We've seen it work sometimes, but realistically in the NFL, it feels like you need a team most of the time to be super successful. And it sounds to me like Urban, I didn't know that he had brought those guys in, but it sounds like he's really bringing in a lot of guys that have done it a lot longer than him at the NFL level to really make sure that he's prepared for that level, which is good to hear. So you mentioned, another hole a little bit earlier that you guys just filled. I've heard some things about Tebow that maybe it's a little more associated with also trying to groom Lawrence a little bit into the system that Urban likes to run. Or do you think that they're truly bringing Tebow in to compete to be the tight end?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. It's a tough topic, man. It's something where I think I jumped on 2 podcasts like in the last 48 hours, and that took up like the whole podcast. It's just like talking about Tebow, and it's just like, guys, you're giving this guy a chance who was like the number 1 competitor in college, and he lives down the street now from Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer bought a house a couple months ago and basically Tim Tebow was his neighbor. So he's just in his ear nonstop. And Urban was trying to convert him to tight end when he entered the NFL. And Tebow was like, no. So this is something where like he's wanted to be a tight end. So maybe it's a little like, let's see what he can do because the hole in the tight end position is certainly like it's huge. They don't have a receiving tight end. They just don't have it. And so, his skill set being a ball carrier is just like he can be a tank, man. So once he kind of catches the ball, I think, they're going to see how well he's going to do. And I know that some of these guys are going to be headhunting, though. There's already tweets from players that are like, oh, I can't wait till we play Jacksonville. We get to see Tim Tebow. We're going to knock his head off. And it's just like, oh, my God, I'm a little scared.
Yeah, it's when I heard it, it's just kind of the first thing that came to my mind was just like, it's amazing that this guy can keep like sticking around professional sports like this, right? Like he's like, he doesn't make it in football the first time. So then he starts playing baseball and then he's like doing the baseball thing. And then it's like, the baseball thing failed. Yeah, he did the minor league thing and then that didn't work out. And then now he's like, yeah, I'm going back to the NFL. It's just like, the only piece of it that bugs me a little bit too is like all these guys that have been trying to get on football teams, right? And you're telling me that there's not some guy that's out there grinding at the position right now that's probably better than Tim Tebow that should be on your football team. That's the kind of other piece of it to me is kind of a little
But the only thing why I don't really agree with, or I can't say not agree because that's definitely true. But I just feel like Urban doesn't want to take the chance on somebody that has never even met him before when he knows what Tebow can do. And it's his first year, like Urban's first year. And he knows,
right.
Let me give this guy a chance, because imagine if he brought in some tight end that nobody knows and he just sucked. And it's like, once again, I mean, that can happen now with Tebow too. But at the same time, like people are going to give Tebow maybe they're going to maybe not be so hard on him because he's converting positions. It's not like he brought him in to be a quarterback. He brought him in to be a tight end. So I just don't see like why not. I don't know why they won't sign somebody else. There's really, it's just about comfortability. And Urban, he didn't like Pat Fearmouth or whatever his last name is from Penn State, which I thought he's a great tight end, but he didn't pick him up. Which is kind of confusing because he can go vertical, he can block, but he's also new at drafting. He said like he wanted to know why he couldn't just bundle up a bunch of picks in the 6th and 7th round and then go up and trade up in the draft to get like more first round picks. And his staff members were explaining to him that like how much value you can get at that level and the depth, and like he kind of like was just taking it all in this year. I just think he kind of didn't know what to do. He didn't want to make a drastic move. So he was like, okay, let's just stick in the places that we had. And there weren't any guys that if he drafted them, then it would be a reach. And like, so I don't know. It's just, I would say it's comfortability and that's all, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I really like that tight end too. Pittsburgh, I think, got a steal in him. I think he's going to be a great tight end. Him not playing his senior year definitely like hurt him, not having film, but his film from his junior year he's a really good looking tight end. I was hoping he'd somehow find his way in Buffalo, fall, and he just happened to scoop him up because I think he's going to be a stud. So we're going to talk about the AFC a little bit and kind of wander around. But since you guys have made these moves and with some of the other stuff you did this offseason, just sticking with your division right off the bat, because Houston seems to be kind of in shambles. Indianapolis looks like they're going to have a good football team again this year. It's going to hinge quite a bit on how well Wentz performs, right? But they look good. Tennessee lost quite a lot. I think Tennessee really kind of took more of a hit than a lot of people are really talking about on how many players they lost in free agency and things like that. But where do you think you guys would fall right now if you were just going to throw division rank out? Like, where do you guys think you rank right now?
I think they could do pretty well. They may be third, but I think there's a good chance that they could land in second place. Just if the stars align and these new players really pick up the playbook, and these DBs don't pick off Trevor as much as I'm envisioning. I think the stars could align year one, and they could end up getting to second place. I think there's a good chance.
Yeah,
I'm just maybe optimistic, but
No, I mean, I would agree with that because I think part of it too is going to be that you don't know what you're going to get from the Jaguars this year. So they might be able to get a good 3-4 victories in the beginning of the season before people even kind of catch up to what they're going to try to do. Right. You never really know, but I would agree with that because I think the Texans are in such bad shape that it's the Colts. And then if you might be able to beat a Tennessee or this year, depending on how much they really lost.
Yeah, I would say the toughest thing is really just stopping their backfield. And the Jaguars are switching to like a 3-4 hybrid this year, so that would be the only reason why they wouldn't beat them is if they just can't get the defense like cohesive enough to stop the two-headed monster back there.
Yeah.
But people forget that the Jaguars literally like tanked last year. They switched up their quarterback every 2 games. So yeah, their record was 1-15 or 1-16, but they weren't that low. Like their talent level is higher than that. They wanted to go for Trevor. So
Right.
I don't think you can really say that they're as bad as what their record was.
So moving around to let's move over to the Bills a little bit then and see what did you think after the Bills draft? Did they do anything that you thought was like, oh, okay, that makes the Bills that much better? Or did you just view it as kind of, okay, the Bills they're still a good football team, but I don't know that they made the leap that they need to make?
No, I mean, I like their picks. The only thing is, they got those 2 offensive tackles, like back to back. Is that something that you guys really, really needed? Because
Yeah,
I just feel like there were some other guys there on the board.
Yeah, so they ended up with four interior guys, 2 on each side of the ball, right? So they took 2 DEs and then they took 2 tackles. They took 2 DEs, 1, 2, and then took a tackle at 3, and then the second tackle came at 5. But yeah, they really made a move towards the youth side of it, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because the 2 D ends right now are like 32 and 33. So I mean that side of it you could see. I mean the interior depth is always something that Brandon Beane is always looking for interior depth. And I think just getting the youth is interesting. The right tackle position for us right now is actually they re-signed Darrell Williams this offseason, who had a great season. But the way they structured his contract, he's actually could be out after this season. So one of these guys could realistically be the starting right tackle next season moving forward if that's the way it works out. Williams, he he's been in the league for 5 years. He had 4 rough years with Carolina and came in and played a great season with the Bills, enough to sign a 3-year deal. But I don't know that you can bank on all 3 of those years are going to be successful. So I can agree with the interior moves. And honestly, I don't know that we had that many holes. So I don't know that you could go wrong just grabbing young depth on the line and seeing what happens.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. And, Josh Allen has really stepped it up, honestly. So just getting guys to protect him and just reassure, his health in general is always you can't go wrong type of deal. I do wish they picked up a running back though too. But they got a full house back there, so it's going to be a competition. And they say the running back position is going away anyway. So.
Right, or whatever it's going to be, right? I mean, I feel like Matt Breida was the running back draft pick. When they brought him in free agency right here before the draft started, I feel like that was the running back draft pick. They were like, yes, we need a body that comes with some speed, but I don't know that we necessarily have anybody in the draft that we really want to go after, even though there's a couple guys that I think they could have. It to me felt like they were they're happy with the room already. They just spent 2 third-round picks back-to-back seasons, and now come in and draft another running back this season. It really kind of makes it look like you have no concept of what you're doing with the running back. And so I wasn't surprised when they didn't do it. I think that I like Breida, actually. I don't know that he's going to be the game changer. I think it's going to be more of continuity on the line and maybe addressing the way we run the football. But the way Josh Allen plays right now, I don't know that we care to run that much. So I don't know that there's always going to be that need for the running back either.
Yeah, true. And you did pick up another weapon on the outside, who I really like, Marcus Stevenson. So that's going to be just another guy, for Josh to throw to. So it's
Yeah, I thought
pretty
immediately
exciting.
when he got drafted, he was going to be our new kick return guy. I thought he might make that might be his way to get on this football team, because we did just lose Andre Roberts, who's a phenomenal kick returner and punt returner. But yeah, Tyler Dune actually had written a really great article on Stevens, and just about his background and everything like that. So it was cool that he got drafted by us, because I got done reading that article about his background and everything, and was just like, he's got a cool story. So yeah, I'm excited to see him too. And he's a Blazer. I mean, he's got speed
Yeah,
galore. So
yeah, fast.
should be very exciting.
Height isn't really anything you need to be concerned about nowadays, especially with this draft. Everybody was like, I feel like everybody was under 6 foot.
Yeah, it was a smaller group for sure this year. Let me ask you about, since you're in the state of Florida there, what's your take on Tua and the Dolphins? You think they're capable of challenging Buffalo this year?
Uh, that's tough because they couldn't even get it together on their own roster last year. They couldn't decide who they wanted back there because I remember when they replaced Tua and in the middle of the game, and he wasn't hurt. Honestly, like I remember watching that game, and they were like, "Oh no, he's just he's back in the game, and he's fine. He's not injured at all." They really just like replaced him. So I think they're kind of like in shambles right now. They kind of don't know what they want. But I think Tua is the way to go moving forward. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get it together this year. I think you guys have a pretty good chance for it to be a pretty good competition.
Yeah, he's, to me, I mean, they had another good draft again. I mean, they're Flores and the GM are doing a very good job right now of preparing the Dolphins to be successful in the future, by getting draft picks, and they did the right thing again. Like, it's now or never for Tua, right? Because I mean, basically they handed him more weapons and said, "Okay, here we go. Let's get him more weapons. Maybe that'll be the trigger." But I still think it's going to fall to him being able to throw the ball to the outside. Until he does that, I don't know that he's going to be successful in the NFL, and I feel like that's always just going to kind of hold him back.
Yeah, I mean, and the one good thing is they were another team that reunited the offensive players, so that's
Right.
always great to see. Not for a Bills fan, but in the NFL, it's kind of cool to kind of bring these guys back. But yeah, they killed it in the draft, man. They got some really good players like right off the bat. Even, I think they traded up a bunch of times though because they only had like 7 picks, I think it
Yeah,
was.
they ended up moving around again, but it's, to me, it's more even about, like, they've got, I think, two twos next year, or 2 1s next year, and then 2 1s the year after that still too. I think just from between Arizona and Houston and all that, and just moves they made again this year. So that they're set up to be a really, really good football team if they can get it together. But it's always going to hinge on Tua for me until he shows me that he's capable of making all the throws. I'm not sure that it matters how many weapons they put around him, but I think it's definitely going to be a challenge this season. There's even talk, have you heard the rumblings that, of course, the Patriots are going to win the division again this year now, because Bill Belichick's mad, and now that's just going to mean that he's going to win the division.
I mean, isn't he always mad about something? Like, get
I
off my
think he
lawn.
is. Yeah.
So, I mean, I wouldn't be, too worried. I bet you guys were happy when Tom Brady left, though. Like, did you throw a party?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where it was just like, you almost felt like a curse had been lifted, right? Or you just like,
Yeah.
and it's kind of crappy twofold though, really, because there is part of me still that really wishes we would have beat him, right? Like, you want to take a king down. You don't want him to like just walk away, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
that part of it kind of sucks, but I do enjoy the division a lot more now that I feel like it's a lot more even playing field. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
we're still probably the best team in the division, but it's getting a lot more competitive, and it's a lot more competitive out of all four teams, which is more fun than just watching the Patriots kind of cruise every season. So that part of it to me is a lot of fun. But overall, Kansas City still the best team in the AFC in your eyes? Are they still?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
They're gonna come back with a vengeance. I don't think they'll succeed, but it'll be fun to watch. I think I think there's a good chance that it just may be the same Super Bowl that it was last year. So it's going to be fun to watch it play out. I think that both of our teams have a little bit to go before they can be in the running to kind of take one of those positions right now.
Yeah, who else do you think could challenge the Chiefs this year? I mean, the Browns have had a really good offseason. They drafted well. They look like they have all the pieces in the right places to make decisions and make, positive moves to move forward, but it's going to hinge on Baker, right? I mean, his ability to be successful and keep it together, I think, is what's going to be their thing, but they've definitely got a high quality football team right now, I think, which feels really weird to say, but yes, the Cleveland Browns do have a very good football team.
Yeah, and they keep getting, good guys. But I know that what's his name, that receiver Odell, he kind of doesn't want to be there anymore. I mean, maybe his thoughts changed after the draft, but or just like his attitude is always that way. Like, I always have to overcome something that's not going on in my life.
Right.
Maybe that's like just his attitude all the time. But that makes me a little nervous. But yeah, overall, they're projected to win like 9 games. So I know that's gonna be an interesting team to watch. It's kind of funny, like when you see them winning games and you see their record, you're like, wow, times are really changing. Like, it's kind of cool, right?
I was chatting with I forget who it was a couple weeks back. I think it was Troy King I might have been talking to, and he's a Dolphins fan, and we were just chatting how, like, I never would have thought that, like, probably even ever, that I would say that there could be like a Bills Browns AFC championship game, right? Like, it would feel weird, right? That there'd be like this Lake Erie battle for the AFC championship, right? Like, you would never have said in a million years Bills Browns would be taking place anytime soon.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting. I mean, it's like I've been telling everybody too this entire offseason, it's like, whether we can beat Kansas City yet or not, I'm not sure, right? I think we got better this offseason. We've done things to get better. It's not a lot better. I wouldn't say it's a ton better, but I think players can get better, right? Which could help us get over the hump. But to me, it's more about just secure the division, right? If you secure the division, you get a chance to be king, right? That's it. You get it. You might not get them, but at least you guaranteed yourself a shot. So you have to just win the division, and everything Brandon Beane does that I see, it looks like he's triggering it towards just winning our division, right? He brings in big, tall, young, fast guys. We're now going to have 3 rookie quarterbacks in our division, right? I mean, like, or Tua's played in his second season, but he didn't play a full season. So we've got young quarterbacks in our division. Easiest way to mess up young quarterbacks, pressure, right? Get them off their clock. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I do think that the Bills have a good shot again this season. I think some of the other contenders should be like the Chargers. I think they could probably really press Kansas City this year a little bit. I think, especially having to play them twice during the regular season, that makes things different.
Yeah, actually, you guys actually have a pretty good shot of getting there, especially with those 2 defensive linemen you just picked up. I mean, already your defense was good. So I kind of take back what I said before, where, like, maybe you guys aren't there yet. Like, you're nothing like the Jaguars. Last year you guys did phenomenal, and Josh Allen's only getting better and better. There's a good chance I think Baltimore is going to give you guys a good run. Lamar hasn't been too bad.
We get 6 or 7 games against rookie quarterbacks this year too. I mean, we play you guys this year, so we're gonna get Lawrence. They're talking we might be one of the potential candidates to play in the London game, which would be kind of a pain. But we get him, and then of course we're going to potentially get 2 against New England, depending on what happens there. I still think it's going to be Cam this season. I don't anticipate Mac Jones being in this season, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Regarding our matchup, Buffalo is. I actually looked up the history between the Jags and Buffalo, because there's a lot of history a couple of years ago that was made. But just overall, you guys are up 9-8 against the Jaguars. So this can be the year we can tie it up.
Make it. That's funny. Because we don't actually play each other hardly that much, right? I mean, so. Yeah. But I'm hoping that we don't get the London game. I don't really want to do the whole London thing, but I think I was reading too, it could be like Denver, San Fran, or us, or like 3 of the teams that haven't been, in forever. So we would be the prime candidates for it. But so either way, so we both kind of agree.
Welcome
I think that
London.
Kansas City is still probably the top dog right now, right? And I think you have to keep the king at the top until somebody knocks him off anyways, right? I mean, that's just the right way to do it. But I definitely think it would be more fun to not see a Kansas City Tampa Bay Super Bowl again and to see
Yeah.
somebody come up with something.
Yeah, like Tom Brady though, it's just like I hate it, but also I like the fact that we are kind of witnessing history,
Yeah.
and it's kind of cool in a way, but I don't know how this guy does it. And Gronk was like he was a disappearing act in the playoffs. Like honestly, they didn't even really need him, and then he makes 3 huge plays and they just win. And it's just
Yeah,
like
he didn't even
I feel
really
like
do that much for him throughout the whole season, realistically. I mean, he had a couple games where he stepped in and like was the guy, but like, yeah, he really didn't have, that much going on either.
Yeah, and I feel like they still have stuff up their sleeve, which is scary.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's annoying that they can pretty much just like bring in whatever free agent they want right now, and they'll just come at like some stupid low number, right? Because they know that they've got a shot to go actually win the Super Bowl. Right?
Yeah, and all the
pretty wild.
Yeah, and all these guys are like, "Oh yeah, I'll take less money just so we can get another guy." And it's like, it makes you so mad. Like, why are you guys playing like a team? Stop.
Yeah, AB would never accept $3.8 million, right? Prior, he was always show me the money, and now it's like, yeah, whatever Tom said. Tom said how much? Yeah, okay, whatever.
It took him a little bit.
Yeah.
He tried to strong arm them, but it wasn't. It was never happening that they were going to give in. Like they don't really even. They can replace Antonio Brown, so I think he realized that and was like, "All right,
Well, I also don't think that the NFC has a true challenger at this point. I mean, especially with Green Bay, like who knows? Like they've got to solve the Aaron Rodgers snafu before we can even know who's going to be. If they don't have Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback for them, then take Green Bay out of the running, right? Like they're not going to be beating Tampa Bay anytime soon. I mean, one of the NFC West teams may be competitive, like a San Fran might make a run back or something, like that. But the NFC, like it's going to be interesting. The Saints aren't going to be the Saints, really. I don't anticipate. I'm not.
Seattle.
I don't know who else would really challenge them.
Seattle, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, nobody from the East, I don't think. The Giants, it's not going to be. Redskins, I think, might have a really good football team this year, but I don't know that they'd still be able to stop them. Offensively, it'd be interesting to see, but their defense is scary good.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle they had a pretty good record last year, right? Didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They did all right, and I mean, who knows what's going on up there too? I mean, Russell was all off season, kind of like talking about wanting to be out of there, right? Not really feeling happy there either. So, but anyways, it's been a really fun chatting with you so far, and of course, after the football session a little bit, we'd like to get into the nerding out session a little bit and kind of pick the brain outside of the football a little bit and kind of go over just a few questions, see what Laurie likes to do a little bit in her free time and just see, what she's up to a little bit. So the first question for you is your favorite sports book or just like a book that you would recommend that you read or, like something you're going to read that somebody told you, you should read. You got something for us?
So there's a book by Tony Dungy that I really liked, Uncommon, and also there is a book on habits that actually had a lot of like sports references in it. There are a couple like books on habits right now, but on the football field, Tony Dungy did a hell of a lot in order to get his team ready and like literally changing them as like being cohesive to really take them to like the AFC Championship and everything like that. And so there are some references in this book. I'm trying to find it right now. But it's the one, it's orange and there's like a little guy riding a bike on it. Check out that habit book. That one really kind of changes your day to day to just be an overall better person, like with scheduling or which I still need work on. But just in general, I really, really like that book.
Cool. Have you read the, I had a buddy of mine, Joe Miller on, like a couple weeks ago. Have you read Urban's book?
No, I haven't. I just actually ordered it on Amazon though.
Yeah, he actually, that was the book he recommended. And I think it speaks a little bit to what you're talking about, like Tony's book about just becoming a team and like the leadership aspect of it and really doing everything for others and the other people around you and doing all that kind of stuff. Was Tony in that book? Is Tony talking mostly kind of about this is around like Peyton and the Marvin Harrison days and stuff?
No, I think it was a little. It may have been before then.
A little
When he
prior to
was
that?
kind of he was working on the defense, and he wanted to like change their thought process when they were in the game. So like it was like, okay, when I'm dropping back in coverage, his guys were thinking too much, and so he literally changed the way that they thought. With like some of his coaching tactics. So I thought that was like so interesting to
Yeah, that's
hear
cool.
about what he did, like to actually change the way that they think when they're on the field, so they don't second guess themselves, and it actually turned the whole defense around. It was amazing.
Yeah, you hear that quite a bit, right? Where they just you want guys flying around. You don't want them, thinking about what they're doing. You want them just flying around because they know where they're supposed to be, right? They just know where they're supposed to be and they feel it and they just go there and do it, right? So
Yeah, and it had a
that's
lot
cool.
to
I'm gonna
do
have to check
like
that out.
yeah, it had a lot to do with like the psychological like aspects of forming a habit when you're doing something. So you don't think about it anymore. You just kind of do it. Like you grab your keys before you walk out the door, like that type of thing. And it's just like that, like see the ball go after, like Bobby Boucher
Right.
type of deal. So I thought that was like so cool. And like an interesting read. I'm so glad I read that habit book.
Cool. I like that one. That's a good one. Cool. Very cool. So that'll be in the show notes too for everybody. The link will be in there for if you guys want to go check it out or whatever. You just click over to it and you guys can order it up yourselves. So the next one. So especially for you, because you've played the game, what brought you to football, or what really was like Laurie's like, I just love football, like what really brought Laurie to the game?
So when I was younger, I grew up in a suburb of Philadelphia. So my mom and my family, they're all diehard Eagles fans. My mom's boyfriend at the time used to actually sit on the couch, watch the game with face paint on. Like it's just like insane. So first it was like just the competitiveness and the competition and like the love of the game. And then my brother played football. And then I started getting into video games and I started playing a lot more Madden. And then when I was in college, I got recruited to play basketball and soccer. And honestly, like I ended up not even playing. I ended up just running cross country because when I started to play football, when I actually started to play it, not just watch it, that's when I really fell in love with it. Like knowing that it was a chess game and knowing like how when you watch film, you can find tendencies and you can beat it's literally any given Sunday. Any team can beat any team if you put the right pieces in the right places, and that in general, like just the philosophy of the game, just made me fall in love with it, and I'm never gonna stop now. Just football every single day, it's on my mind. And so I just love every aspect of the competition. The fans, any team can win, and then film like the actual chess of the game. It's just like every aspect of it. I love it.
Yeah, people don't really realize, how in-depth football really is. I mean, the people that watch it, they get it, right? And you can see what's going on, but, like, the depth and, like, because you would just be like, well, why can't they stop them? I mean, how many plays can there really be, right? Like, why can't they just know what they're doing over there, right? Like, how can that team who you're studying, how can you not know everything that they're doing if you're studying them, right? Like, where they have a billion plays? Like, but the game is, like, just – you do it this way this time, and then the next time you do it this way, and it changes it completely. Now the team has no idea what you're going to do the next time because this time you went this way, this time you went this way, this way you motioned this way this time, and you went this way, right? And it's like it's so in depth and cool to really like just see it. I don't know. I'm glad that you bring up that kind of, because I like am a nerd like that too, where I just am like, I'm all about like the little tendencies. I 100% love being able to like call a play before it's run and then they run the play, right? It's like, okay, this time in the game, this is what's going to happen, right? He's going to run at the outside right here. Watch. Yeah. Okay. Yep. And there we go. Right. I don't, have you ever read Pat Kerwin's book, Take Your Eye Off the Ball? That's a cool one. In the aspect that it teaches you to view football like the same way that you would score a baseball game, right? And you can track the plays and you can track the formations and you can kind of predict what you would anticipate to see in the second half of this game if they ran it this many times and whatever. So I don't know. It's pretty cool. I never really had thought about viewing football as like as much as you would a baseball game, writing down doing the 1-9 and doing the 3-4-5 double play, doing all that kind of stuff, like you you do that with football too. So that's a good one if you've never checked that one out too.
You're going to be doing that with the Scouting Academy. So.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about that. So it's pretty cool. All right. So the next one is your favorite podcast. You can say your own. But if you're just hanging out or you're looking to listen to a podcast or something, what do you go to?
So this one is funny when I read it because I was like, man, should I say it? Like, because I don't want to be like viewed as like a weirdo or anything, but I like this podcast. It's called.
It's a good opening.
Yeah, I know. It's called Sword and Scale.
Okay.
It's not. I guess you could say like it's a crime podcast, but the host kind of he specializes in like monsters in real life. So like serial killers or like just the craziest stuff ever. And he, instead of going into the background of like, you know, what happened, he goes to like the killer side of like this the killer side of it, where he kind of gets into the mind of, you know, why he would do this, or, you know, how he or she, you know, would, you know, act this way, or kind of tells the story from years before an incident up until like the day that it happens. And he goes really in depth into some gruesome things that could give you nightmares. It could literally put you in psychosis. The things that I've heard, like, it's disgusting that people, like, real live monsters live among us. And it's crazy that some of the stuff that I've heard actually really happened. And so like, I don't know. I love this podcast though. The way that the guy tells the story too. Sword and Scale is definitely my favorite podcast. I re-listen to episodes because I love it so much.
All right, cool. And I don't think that's weird. I mean, like, I think everybody loves like Criminal Minds and stuff like that. I mean, I watch that show over and over again, you know, some of that stuff, but it's interesting to hear. It'd be cool to hear somebody else like tell the story about, you know, all the build up leading up to it. 'Cause you don't really get that in Criminal Minds, right? You kind of just like, they give you like a little tidbit of the back or whatever, but so that's cool. So Sword and Scale, I got it. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to do it early in the day though, so I don't get nightmares, I guess, apparently.
No, yeah, definitely don't like do it before you go to bed, because I've read a lot of comments, and some of those episodes people can't even finish them because they're so like gross. Like he interviews the cops that see the crime scene, that things you don't hear about in the newspaper, you know, those cops will say on this podcast. And it's just like, you know, he'll read out transcripts, he'll show the record of the people talking about it, he'll interview the people that did it. It's crazy. Like, yeah, so don't listen to it before you go to sleep.
I don't know how to listen to it at all now. You're like almost scaring the shit out of me.
No, it is though. It is because you know, it's crazy. It's crazy, some of these stories.
Okay. All right. So let's finish it up for the last question. Just one play, or just like one time that there was a flag that was thrown, or just a player, or just some kind of play that just sticks with you. You just think back to it and you're like, man, that was the worst friggin' play, the worst friggin' player, or that flag. I mean, it was just terrible. What sticks with you?
I'm going to be kind of cliche on this one. The Jaguars played the Patriots in 2017, and I would say one of the drives in, I think it was like either the third quarter or the fourth quarter, the Jaguars were up by, you know, multiple amount of points. I don't remember the score, but they actually went into halftime with like a 14-point lead back in 2017, and Miles Jack stripped, I think it was Gronk. He ran up to him, stripped him, didn't really touch the ground, and he ran into the end zone, but they called him down on the play. And so it's hashtag Miles Jack was not down, because I think we would have won that game if the refs didn't blow that call.
There's a lot of little things like that. We brought up a couple of weeks ago, the one where I don't know if you saw it in the Bills Texans game in the playoffs a couple years back, where he like was the kickoff in the second half. He like comes out of the end zone a little bit and just drops the ball, and they call it a touchback, right? The Bills pick it up and walk it into the end zone, and they're like, yeah, that's a touchdown, right? And they're like, no, because he never went down to the knee. He was in the end zone, but he never went down to the knee. He kind of just he just held his hand out and dropped the ball. So they never did the whole don't touch him. They never did any of that, right? They just were like, he just drops the ball, the Bills pick it up, and we're like, that's a touchdown, right? Like,
yeah, it is.
He never did. And they were like, no. They took it back. So that one sticks with me to this day too, but very cool. So I can't thank you enough, Laurie, for coming on. I know you're busy doing all sorts of other things right now between your own podcast, your writing, and your YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff. But before we close out, is there anything else that you want to shout out? Anything you got coming up? Any projects you're working on? Anything that you want everybody to know about?
So I I recently joined USA Today, The Wires. So I was with the Draft Wire, and I had some draft profiles. So if any of you guys really like a player, want to know a little bit more about them, definitely check out the Draft Wire. And there may be a couple profiles that I did on them. I also just came out with a Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer passing offense, what they're going to do this upcoming year. And then I have something coming out on Kadarius Toney with the NFL Wire. So you can check me out on there, and also my YouTube channel, Ponytails Talking Pigskins. So, and also on Twitter, my handle is right down below. So yeah, give me a follow, and that's about it.
Yeah. And of course, all that stuff will be in the show notes too. I'll have everything down there so you guys can easily find or just connect to all that stuff. It's very cool. I like I'm digging more obviously into, the player, looking at the player, like how they are evaluated in the game and everything like that. So it's very cool and exciting stuff. Draft Wire is cool. I've read quite a bit of stuff over there too. It's interesting to really look at a prospect in a different way. So very exciting. Thanks again for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Once again, all the Cure CP stuff will also be in the show notes, so you guys can go over there and check them out. And of course, thanks for being here. The show doesn't exist if nobody's listening to it. So everybody that's listening in, thanks for listening in. If you guys want to support the show, you can head over to the Patreon page, and sign up over there. You'll get everything sent to you, directly in your email and everything. So you don't have to hunt it down. And here in the future, you guys are going to be able to join on like the live shows and do all that kind of stuff as we go live moving forward. And of course, over at the shop, we got some t-shirts and stuff. If you guys pick any of that stuff up, I'm going to be donating, that money over to the Cerebral Palsy Foundation, this year. So thanks again for listening in, guys. I love you. Be safe out there. Make sure everybody's masking up. Go Bills. We'll let her say go Jags.
Go Jags.
She wants to. All right. And thanks for being here, guys.